All right. It's difficult to do this, and I won't say it's necessary, but if there's a way of showing who the characters are in the movie in the opening scene, go for it. There's a great movie called Wild Things with Nev Campbell and Denise Richards, Matt Dillon. That it starts with it's about bad kids in a high school that are going to murder people, but it starts with a auditorium and a presentation in the auditorium, and all the players are there. The policeman's there doing a presentation. The high school guidance counselor is going to be a major player, and some of the students who are players in the story, they're all there. It's not necessarily something that you need to do, like create this intersection scene that introduces all the characters. But my advice is keep your character pantheon, keep your number of characters that are going to be in your screenplay somewhat limited. You don't want to have each scene introducing new characters. You want to basically have central characters, people who are going to have lines of dialogue, and background characters, extras. So in the movie business, we don't want to pay 175 people, and we don't want to bring new people on set every day. We basically want to have a cast and then a background. So, if it's a high school, there are going to be classrooms that might have 25 people in them, but none of them are going to talk. They're just going to be looking at each other. Your main character might sit on one side of the room, the other characters on the other side of the room. The teacher may be important, may not be important. But really think in terms of, do I really need to give this character a line? Am I giving this character a line that's just setting up background? And think in terms of your world, how many people you don't pay attention to. You get on the subway, there's a bunch of people sitting there, you're not chatting with them. You might look over and see what somebody's doing. You might notice somebody, doing something, but you aren't necessarily going to interact with everybody, and you don't need to record all of their interactions. As a producer, we don't want to do this in film because we have to pay all those people, and we have to cast all those people, and we have to bring them in. I'm not suggesting at all that you want to be, in an isolated room with, no locations. You can have locations, but every time you bring in a new location, remember, in the movie business, we have to get a location scout to bring in that location and to pay for it. So, think, even though you're not producing your movie, still think about it like that, because that's how screenplays are written. Screenplays are written with a sense of budget and with a sense of, characters are introduced for a reason. If somebody's going to be set up at the beginning, you're going to bring them back at the end. You aren't going to have characters that have a big interaction with your character and disappear unless they die. Unless they're Obi-Wan Kenobi, they're going to be giving your character some really great advice, and then they're going to die in some way, and your character is going to have to respond to that absence of the character. In other words, if their death is going to impact your character in some way, so that your character has to take on more responsibility, like the death of a parent, the death of a mentor. So yeah, think in terms of that. The reason I'm thinking about it this morning is I'm listening to this audiobook. It's a book by Barbara Kingsolver, and every freaking chapter has new characters. And it just sort of feels like she comes up with an idea for a scene, and then she just names this person, that person, that person. You just feel like, I don't really care. Life, you might have some random people coming in and out of your life, but it's less than you think. You know what I mean? You'll walk into a classroom, you might make one friend or two friends, but for the most part, most of those people are not going to be with you for the rest of your life. So the people that are with you for your life, these are the characters. These are the characters that impact your life. So this is called character design. You have a main character, you're going to have some kind of a protagonist. Think a little bit about who those characters are and how do I set them up at the beginning. You might even set somebody at the beginning that feels random because your character hasn't really interacted with them yet, but then they're going to end up impacting that character. Like there's a new kid in the class, your character notices the new kid, they sort of avoid the new kid, and then it turns out that new kid's going to really become their friend. All right. So yeah, character design. Always be thinking a little bit of how many people are there? How can I introduce them early? And when we talk about not Sid Field, Blake Snyder has this idea of a B story. A B story can be a few extra characters coming in at the beginning of the second act, but you don't want characters really coming in all through the movie. You can have a reveal at the end, at the climax. Sometimes we call this like the reveal of the true villain. To a certain extent, you want that character to have been in the story before, so that you don't really want something to be revealed, oh my God, the murderer was Jim. Everybody's like, who's Jim? Oh, he's this guy from out of town that nobody's ever met. Well, that's not a very good mystery. You want the murderer to be somebody in the cast of characters. You don't all of a sudden want somebody to come out of nowhere. Surprise, hey, I totally fooled you. It's a character you've never seen before. Well, yeah, doesn't really make sense. So no matter whether you're writing comedy or whatever, really be thinking a little bit in terms of, I'm going to introduce these characters early on. I'm going to set up a conflict between people early on in the screenplay that's going to end up resolving at the climax. And then, so I think things often start small, they get bigger in the middle, and then they get smaller again. But even when they're bigger, like I like this movie, I think it's called Bring It On. It's about cheerleaders. So you have a team of cheerleaders, you have the cheerleaders they compete with, then you have a giant competition that they're going to for cheerleading. Most of the teams, we really don't see that much. We see, one team wearing blue and one team wearing red. We really don't introduce them all. And then at the end, it comes down to, what did we learn between this interaction between the two cheerleading squads, something like that. Okay, just a thought.